Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about all the issues with the college football playoff and how a lot of the people this past weekend made me pretty mad, including Kirk Herbstreit, including Paul Feinbaum. But at the end of the day, we move forward. We see what happens in the next round, really hoping that Arizona State and Boise State can shut some people up. But at the end of the day, Robert, you're absolutely right. This is just what the 12-team playoff was going to give you. At the end of the day, you had 4 teams. There were a lot of blowouts. You add more teams, and you're expecting closer games. I don't know what to do for you at the end of the day. So it was going to be a little bit of a rough format to start. People are very mad. We'll move forward. Just Lane Kiffin, stop tweeting. Please just stop tweeting. But at the end of the day, we got to talk about bowl games. There's so much stuff going on with the CFP. We could talk about the CFP till the cows come home. We got to give love to bowl season. Bowl season is very, very important to me. It is very, very important to the fabric of college football, and I am not going to be one that leaves it by the wayside. So let's get into these bowl games that happened this past weekend. We'll start with the LA Bowl between UNLV and California. And when do the Hurricanes play? I believe the 28th. I could be wrong about that. I believe they're one of those Friday games as we get into maybe they're one of the Tuesday. We'll talk about that on Friday. I can promise you that we will cover that game on Friday. I will have all of the updates that you possibly need. I believe it's the 28th against I'm cutting in and out. Can y'all hear me? I hope that's not an issue going forward. But UNLV California, sorry. UNLV, a little bit of a rough performance passing the ball. 5 for 18 for Haj Malik Williams, 96 yards, but he scored 2 touchdowns in this one, and the defense was absolutely incredible. Both teams are kind of going into an uncertain future. Cal goes in without their spark plug at quarterback from Fernando Mendoza. You also have UNLV heading into the Dan Mullen era. We'll see how that unfolds, and 2 off season that'll be really fascinating to watch as we move into 2025. Western Kentucky and James Madison. James Madison gets a huge win at the end of the year to salvage the season just a little bit. Kind of had a tough back end of the season, but played some really good football towards the end, and they get to 9 wins. George Pettaway, 100 yards rushing in this one. Bryce Atkins played a really good game in replacement duty. 16 for 23, 181, 1 touchdown. James Madison is the team that I think could really kick it up a notch next year. I really like what Bob Chesney is doing. Obviously, kind of a weird year, up and down, games that they probably feel like they should have won, but you keep Alonzo Barnett in that place, you keep Bob Chesney around, I think you're going to be a really, really fun team. And then Tyson Helton over there at Western Kentucky is going to have them ready to roll. They will be a player in the Conference USA going forward. Even without Caden Veltkamp walking out the door, I think they'll be more than fine. They'll find a new quarterback and they'll keep this thing rolling. Georgia Southern fell a little bit short to Sam Houston State. This was one that I had Georgia Southern in, but at the end of the day, the Sam Houston State was able to finish the Casey Keeler era and start the Phil Longo era with a win. And as you can imagine, it was Hunter Watson. 237 total yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 4 INTs for this defense for Sam Houston. They were all over the place, including a pick 6 to start this game out. Really incredible stuff from Sam Houston, and it'll be interesting to watch what these two teams are going forward. Clay Helton is probably staying put over there at Georgia Southern, and if J.C. French can come back, it's going to be a really, really fun team. And then Sam Houston with Phil Longo is going to be a really fascinating thing to watch, no doubt about that. Then you have Ohio against Jacksonville State, 2 teams that won their conferences this year, and it was the Parker Navarro show. He was absolutely incredible. We talked about how good Contravion Wisner was with 110 yards for Texas. Navarro one-upped him, went for 111 yards and 3 scores on the ground. Really incredible stuff. The Ohio defense kept the Jacksonville State run game, which is very, very hard to keep under wraps. 42 yards rushing for Jacksonville State is absolutely incredible. They did hit a couple of big-time plays down the field, but if you can slow down Tyler Huff in that run game, you're going to have a lot of success. But Ohio has officially jumped into the Brian Smith era with a win. Jacksonville State, they picked up Charles Kelly yesterday. We'll talk about that a little bit more depth going forward, but going to be really interesting next year. Both teams have quite a bit coming back next year, but both will have new quarterbacks. Parker Navarro and Tyler Huff will be out the door. It'll be interesting to see what these offenses are, and maybe if they change just a little bit as they go into next year. And then the one that everyone was watching just for one big-time play, Damon Watson. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'll be totally honest with you. It's very lame to get that excited about it, but a 400-pounder taking a handoff is just something you love to see. But DJ Lagway was incredible in this one as well. He had a couple of mistakes that were very kind of freshman-type mistakes, but 300 yards through the air, really did a great job, and that run game was rolling against a very good Tulane defense, over 200 yards rushing, 3 INTs from Ty Thompson in this game, and didn't come at a great time because he's kind of his audition for other teams in the portal. He is making his way out, so very talented kid. I think he's going to be able to find a good place to land, but the Green Wave has picked up a couple of quarterbacks, including Donovan Leary yesterday. It'll be interesting to see what Tulane is going forward. And then Florida, they're the team to watch going forward. There's no doubt about that. For Tulane, they have John Summerall back, which is huge. If they can get Mekhi Hughes back in the mix, this is going to be a team that will compete for the American next year. Coastal Carolina and UTSA, they face off at 11 a.m., just about an hour after we get off air here, but remarkable that they're facing off this early. One quarterback will be on the field. Ethan Vasco for Coastal Carolina will be off the field. He has joined Liberty for 2025. UTSA holding on to just about everyone, at least as of right now. It looks like Owen McCown will be out there, but at the end of the day, Coastal Carolina might have the best player on the field, and Braden Bennett, very, very talented player. But UTSA might have the next 3 or 4. So I'm going to go with the Roadrunners. I'll go with Owen McCown in that one. I think it's going to be a really fun game, but I'll go with the Roadrunners there. The Idaho Potato Bowl, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. NIU against Fresno State, two teams that played some really good football throughout this year, came a little bit short of where they wanted to be at the end of the year. NIU obviously started as the story of college football. Fresno State going into the Matt Entz era as they move into 2025. Mikey Keene, the starting quarterback for Fresno State, is in the portal, so he will not be going in this one, but neither will the other starting quarterback, Ethan Hampton, because he's in the portal as well, just decommitted from Wake Forest. We'll see where he ends up, but overall, this is going to be a very weird game with a lot of new players that you'll see, but I'm going to go with Gavin Williams. I'm going to go with that run game for NIU. I think they do enough, and I think give me the Huskies, give me the points with that as well. South Florida and San Jose State. There's two teams that I don't want to say had disappointing years, but I feel like they felt like they had more on the chip. They felt like they left a little bit of dip on the chip here because South Florida was one of those teams coming into the year that I was sky high on. Really, really love this team. Obviously had some injury troubles with Byron Brown and some different things. Bryce Archie is going to be probably starting for this game. Going to be really interesting to see how he can react to his second start. And then Nick Nash, you will not see on the other side. He is declared for the draft. He is going to move on to the next level. Very talented kid. Cannot wait to see what he does in the NFL level. I think he'll be playing there for a very long time. But as good as Nick Nash is, I still like San Jose State here. I like Floyd Chalk the fourth. I think he's going to make enough plays in the run game. I think San Jose State is able to win this one relatively comfortably at the end of the day. Very talented team, but I'm going to lean towards I'm going to lean away, I guess, from the freshman quarterback in Bryce Archie. I'll lean towards the run game that I trust just a touch more. Pitt against Toledo. This is a very interesting game. This is a game that a lot of people will look at. They'll say, okay, it's going to be Pitt, and they'll move on to the next game. Toledo's a good team. Toledo can really throw the rock around. Toledo can make a lot of big-time plays, and I think it's going to be a really, really fun one. But Pitt heads into the postseason 7-5 after a 7-0 start. It's been really tough. Eli Holstein has had some different injuries. They've had injuries really all over the field, and they've really struggled, no doubt about that. But they were a great, great story to start the year, and I think they could be a great story into 2025. As long as Eli Holstein is there, I think they have a very, very high ceiling. But I think it's going to be a really fun game between two very, very interesting offenses that like to throw the rock around. I'm going to go with the Rockets. I'll go with Toledo here. I'll go with Tucker Gleason. I'll go with Jerwan Newton. I'll go with all those guys on the outside to just play a team that's just not all the way mentally there. If I had to imagine for Pitt, I'll go with Toledo in this one to pull a little bit of an upset. Rutgers, Kansas State, and this one I'm doing a little bit of wishful thinking with. I think the status of Kyle Monangai for this game is still a little bit up in the air. I'm going to say he's going to play, just to put it out in the universe, hopefully that he will hear me, he will be inclined to play. But at the end of the day, going to be a great matchup nonetheless. Two very, very fun teams. Rutgers started the year very fast, kind of tapered late. Kansas State had some kind of up and down moments throughout the year, came up just short of that Big 12 title. Very talented team nonetheless, and a very interesting team going into 2025. But in this game, going to be really, really fun to watch. This feels like a moment for Avery Johnson. This feels like a moment kind of like what Miller Moss did for USC, or kind of like what Nico did for Tennessee this past season in bowl season, where you play that really incredible game. Everything starts clicking, everything looks really, really good, and you move into 2025 feeling incredibly confident. I think DJ Giddens could run wild in this game in his final game for Kansas State. I think it's going to be a really fun one, hoping that Kyle Monangai is on the field, and I think Kansas State comes out with a win. I think Avery Johnson puts on a little bit of a show in this one. And then to finish out the week, Arkansas State, Bowling Green. There's more on Friday. We will cover those on Friday. Just by the way, a couple of huge ones on Friday that I love. But at the end of the day, Arkansas State, Bowling Green. This is the last time you're going to see Harold Fannin Jr. at the college football level. Enjoy it while you can. This guy's absolutely incredible. Was second in the country in receiving yards this year. He is so much fun to watch, and frankly, probably the easiest one of the bunch, if I'm being totally honest. Give me the Golden Eagles. Give me Harold Fannin to go absolutely crazy, even without Terrion Seward in that backfield, who is actually making his way to Virginia Tech. Great pickup for the Hokies there. They're going to be more than fine. I think Harold Fannin goes crazy. I think Bowling Green gets a win. I think they move on to the 2025 season with quite a few questions around that roster as you move forward, but that's kind of just the reality of being a Group of 5 team right about now. So a couple of really remarkable bowl games that are going to be happening throughout this week. A couple of great ones on Friday they will break down, including Georgia Tech Vandy. That might just be my very favorite matchup of the entire thing. So going to be really, really fun to watch all of that unfold, and cannot wait to get into all of that with you all. But let's take our last break here, and when we come back, do a little bit of a weekend catch-up. There was a couple of portal moves I want to make sure you guys have on y'all's radar, a couple of coaching hires that definitely are very important, and then a couple of things from the FCS playoffs that we got to get to, got to make sure we give some love down there. So we'll do that right after this, so stick with us.